to educate, motivate, and activate. We want our citizens to know what's going on. So in that mode, what we want is to have Rob Simmons come up, give us a little talk on what's going on. Rob? Thank you.
Thank you, Rusty. Thank you, everybody, for coming here this afternoon. I know this is Super Bowl weekend. I know it's a big snow weekend in Washington, D.C. I hope the snow is cold and deep. Maybe that'll keep them preoccupied. You know, they won't be doing any more damage to our country for the next couple of days. But it's a real treat to be here, and let me just say, by way of introduction, when I came in today, I noticed a photograph on the table in the rear of the room, and the date of the photograph is October 3rd, 1991. That was the day that over 50,000 citizens came to Hartford to protest the income tax that was being levied on us against our will by an administration that had promised not to do an income tax. For those of you who recall, an administration that said that raising taxes at a time of economic crisis such as we had at that point in time was like throwing gasoline on a fire. Does anybody remember that?
Yes.
Who remembers that? Well, that's correct, and I remember that very well. I remember that because I had run on a platform against the income tax as a state representative after my representative, Frank Turek, had passed away. And I ran in a special election as I was the town chairman of the Republican Party in my hometown of Southington, and I ran in a special election where I said that if elected I would not vote for the income tax. And as it turned out, one of the first votes that I cast when I went up to Hartford was against the income tax. But before I had that opportunity, I was sworn in and I was invited by Governor Weicker to come into his office. And when I came into the office, I noticed that there were all sorts of television cameras set up, and it wasn't Chris Ford from Woodbury. It was the major networks. And the governor put his arm around my neck, and you know, he's kind of a big guy, and he spun me around in front of the TV cameras, and he said, "I'm glad that Rob Simmons just won this special election to the Connecticut General Assembly. I know he's going to be with me on the income tax." And I'm looking at the cameras like this. And I said, no, I'm not. Well, I have never been ushered out of an office. And I never got back into the office that day. But that goes to an issue that I think is very important in public life, and it's an issue that I have tried to follow to the best of my ability, not perfectly, but to the best of my ability, which is to treat public office as a public trust, to understand that it's not about the individual, whether the individual is a soldier, or in my case, a spy, or a Senate staffer working for Senator Barry Goldwater as his chief of staff, or as an elected official, that when you raise your right hand and you swear an oath to uphold the Constitution and the laws, that you're entering into a special relationship with the people that elected you, that you owe them your service, you owe them your time and your energy, and you need to listen to them because you see, as Governor Brown pointed out so candidly in Massachusetts, these elected seats belong to the people. They don't belong to the individual. There's no such thing as Ted Kennedy's seat. There's no such thing as Christopher Dodd's seat. That's what I believe. And then secondly, I believe, and this comes from my service in the U.S. military, where they say that an officer's word is his bond. That if you serve in the military in any capacity, I know we've got some military folks in the room, that you're, in fact, I would take a moment to say, would anybody who is a veteran or who served in the military please raise your hand. And I thank you for your service. I'm sorry. Can you hear in the back? Do I need to shout a little louder?
Talk louder.
Talk louder, okay, sorry.
That's why I sat right here.
Come stand next to me. If you don't like what I'm saying, poke me in the ribs.
I like it because you're a Republican. Speak the truth.
I do the best. But, you know, an officer's word is his bond. Your word is your bond. And I kind of learned that the hard way back when I was in college. I was graduating from college. I was a literature history major. I was heading off for a job as a newspaper reporter in the family business. And the preceding election that involved Lyndon Johnson and Barry Goldwater, Lyndon Johnson made the commitment. He made the statement and he made the commitment. I don't want an American boy to die in a war that Asian boys should be fighting. Anybody remember that statement? Well, 6 months later, I got a little envelope, a little brown envelope from the Department of the Army. And I opened it up and it said, "Greetings." Who's laughing? Is that Bob? Who's laughing about it? That's not funny. Greetings. It was a draft notice. It was a draft notice. And that began my life of public service, was going into the Army as a private. I went on to serve 20 months in Vietnam, and then served for over 30 years in the military, active in reserve, eventually retiring as a colonel. But, you know, when the people lose trust in those that they elect to serve them, when the people feel that the elected officials consider the seat to belong to them and not to the people, that's when confidence in government breaks down. And I would argue that there has been a loss of confidence in government, but there's been a response to that loss of confidence in government. And the response, in my experience, has come from people in this room and outside this room and around the state and around the country, and that response is a good thing. And you can clap for yourselves now. It's a good thing because we have certain rights as citizens. We have certain rights as citizens. We have the right under the First Amendment to speak. We have the right to peaceably assemble. And we also have the right to petition our government against redress or for redress of grievances. And the rights that we have under our Constitution and our Bill of Rights are sacred. They have been fought for and defended by men and women in uniform over hundreds of years. But with those rights come responsibilities. And one of those responsibilities is to speak out when the government isn't abiding by those who have been elected to represent them. To speak out when spending appears to be out of control. To speak out when deficits are growing and growing to the point that it looks like our children and those who are our children's age and even our grandchildren are not going to be able to afford the cost of government. Because I will argue that when the government reaches into your pocket and takes out a $5 bill, it just so happens to be Abraham Lincoln on a $5 bill. When the government reaches into your pocket and takes out a $5 bill and takes it away from you, the government has taken away your freedom to buy a candy bar, a bottle of water, a cup of soup, your freedom to buy maybe a gallon and a half of gasoline, which gives you the freedom to drive around. When the dollars come out of your pockets, you lose your freedom. And freedom is what this country is all about. And we hope to be a free people, and we want to be a free people. And our freedom is guaranteed under our Constitution. When the government reaches into your pocket and takes out $5,000, you lose your freedom to make a down payment, let's say, on a new car, or maybe start a small business. But when the government takes away $5 billion or $1 trillion, they take away your whole future. And so that's why this is important, and that's one of the things that motivates me to be in this race. And I'll take my money back.